Hello, all. My name is Maya Smith, and I'm a kinesiology major at the University of Laverne. For my project, I decided to analyze feminism and how it is expressed between Eastern and Western cultures. Western culture being North and South America, as well as Europe and some parts of Africa, and Eastern culture being Asia, Russia, and the eastern half of Africa. In order to speak about the expression of feminism, we must first define feminism itself. Feminism, according to the group of sociologists, popular society experts, and historians that I studied research from, all define feminism as a type of movement that advocates for women's rights and sexual equality. It is a political, economic, and social theory that practices gender equality, access to safe and legal reproductive care, civil rights, human rights, nonviolence, immigrant and refugee rights, as well as opposition to discrimination. According to a survey done by the Washington Post in 2016, 33% of men identify as feminist. 50% say they do not identify as feminist, and 5% identify as anti feminist. Meanwhile, 60% of women identify as feminist, 30% do not identify as feminist, and 2% identify as anti feminist. For my research, I wanted to focus less on feminism as a political movement and more as an expression in society and popular culture. In Western society, according to Elizabeth Evans and Prudence Chamberlain in the Journal of Social Studies, feminism stems from a strictly political origin that emphasizes the fight for gender equality. This is further supported by the idea that Western feminism is chronologically organized in waves. The first wave of feminism was focused on women's suffrage and the right to vote. The second wave of feminism focused on equal pay and bodily autonomy. The third wave of feminism was focused on the LGBTQ community and non white women. And the fourth wave of feminism encompasses all of these passions and is catalyzed by the presence of the internet and social media. Western feminism actively engages in a language of inclusivity. However, it has been noted that many new generation feminists are feeling excluded within the feminist movement. Because many feminist leaders are self appointed, there is a true lack of representation within the feminist community. Many non traditional feminists struggle with their identity as feminists because, unfortunately, there is no distinguishing factor between identity and solidarity. More on this later. Because feminism is so entwined with politics and Western culture, there tends to be a trend of political feminists deciding what is acceptable feminism and what is not. Carol Queen, an author and sexologist, even describes a phenomenon called the political lesbian, which she defines as a woman who gets with other women because of feminist politics rather than an interest in exploring their sexual interest in women. Now, I can personally vouch for the idea that there are ideals and actions that are inherently not feminist, but I personally believe that it is concretely anti feminist to so strictly police members of a community you were self appointed to lead. In my personal experience, I have often felt incredibly judged and oversimplified as a human by those who identify as feminist. I always use the example of body positivity, which preaches that women should only speak and think positively about their bodies. This is something I fundamentally disagree with because I believe that if a woman wants to speak badly about her own body, she has the full right to. Her body, her choice, whether the feminist community agrees upon that principle or not. I believe that within the feminist community, there's a wave of censorship and lack of free speech that forces women and men into the mold of the perfect feminist. Because of this, I do not personally identify as feminist because I feel that there are a multitude of ways to express feminism and your support for equal rights, more than reducing it to a political movement allows. Now, let us touch on Eastern feminism and its differences and similarities to Western feminism. A recurring trend that I came across throughout my research, feminism in Eastern cultures, was that feminism is often overlooked because it is often viewed through a westernized lens and compared to the movements of the United States and Europe. While Western feminism rides off the momentum of political movements to make change, Eastern feminism can often be seen using popular culture, the media, art, and music to relay its message. Now, returning back to the idea of identity and solidarity. In Western culture, they are often seen as the same thing. You identify with us, therefore you support us and stand with us. However, in Eastern culture, it is not uncommon for individuals to identify with members of a particular group or movement, but not support it. As for feminism, it is also not uncommon for a group of differing communities and identities to stand together in solidarity. One specific aspect I find particularly interesting on the subject of Eastern feminism is how easily misconstrued the message can become through relaying of false information. Anything known to contribute to a person's identity can become a lens through which they ascertain information about the world. There is often a misconstruction of Eastern feminist ideals by Western feminists, a false attribution, if you will. For example, take the band Pussy Riot in 2012. This punk rock band was made the face of Eastern feminist movement overnight, due to the arrest of members, supposedly because of their resistance to Vladimir Putin's regime. Pussy Riot had a number of members. However, after their arrests, the three members who got arrested became martyrs. Many Western celebrities and political officials expressed support of their feminist intervention of punk rock music. However, in the West, Pussy Riot had become more of a political group than a punk band. They were falsely compared to Gabby Hanna's Bikini Kill, which was formed in protest to sexual abuse. They were grouped in with movements like Riot Girl and feminist punk. The members themselves expressed and emphasized the fact that they view punk as an art form, not a feminist political tool. Pussy Riot not only made references to feminist activism, but political equality and religious equality as well. Through my research, I've discovered that there is a problematic comparison of feminist cultures. The comparison of feminism through Eastern and Western cultures, particularly through a Western lens, creates an oversimplification, a reduction of feminist ideals and expression in the East. One statement I continuously come across on my research, whether it be inferred or verbatim, was that the USA and more broadly Western popular culture determines what is important for the rest of the world. I think the lesson here is that regardless of what culture we are studying, whether it be our own, one similar, or one opposite, it is our duty to educate ourselves on the inside outs of that culture. I think that it's important to develop a lens from within a particular culture so that our views on certain movements, routines, or instances will not be affected by the differences in our backgrounds and identities.